Hello, and welcome to the Science Shrinfrey Show. I'm your host, Sarah Science. Today we're here with Mr. Paul Ehrlich. Hello, Mr. Ehrlich. It's a pleasure to meet you. Without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started with the interview. What are some of your notable awards?
Well, I received the Nobel Prize Award for Physiology and Medicine. I'm very interested and also very passionate in helping my fellow human being and developing substances that can, help with the overall well-being.
All right, that's great. So, you invented the Gram staining bacteria. Mm-hmm. Could you elaborate upon that?
Well, it's basically, I'm very fascinated with the process of staining the microscopic issued substances, which can help detect blood diseases.
Diseases in the blood.
Diseases in the blood.
Mm-hmm.
And that can help in diagnosing what a patient has.
All right. And so you came up with the side chain theory. What is that about?
It's basically, I theorize that chemical structure can explain why immune system can react the way it does to a certain infection or bacteria. And I believe that toxins and antitoxins are also play a part in that.
All right, that's great. Stay tuned for an interview with Mr. Joseph Lister.
We're here with Mr. Joseph Lister. Welcome.
Thank you.
What were your major contributions towards medicine?
Well, I was actually a surgeon, and so I pioneered the idea of antiseptic surgery, which basically promoted the idea of sterilization of equipment after surgery, and this is also known as medical asepsis.
Okay, what promoted your development of medical asepsis?
Well, like I said, I was a surgeon, and so I became highly frustrated in the high rates of spread of disease. The infection rates were so high after I performed surgeries of my patients. Mm-hmm. Because I didn't use sterilization in my surgery, often there were fatal infections that caused the death and just the high infection rates within my patients after surgery. And so I realized that this led to my discovery that microorganisms are actually the cause of disease. And there are microorganisms floating around in the air causing wound infections. And this discovery was actually based upon the ideas of my good friend, Mr. Louis Pasteur. And therefore, I was able to develop a variety of cleaning procedures to kill these microorganisms and decrease the rates of infection within my patients.
Okay. So viewers have often asked which famous product is named after you. Can you tell us which product this is and why it's named after you?
Well, the product is actually Listerine. And Listerine is an antiseptic mouthwash. So it basically kills most of the germs present in our mouths. And so as we all know now, I was the first person to perform an antiseptic surgery in March of 1865. And so therefore, because it's an antiseptic mouthwash, and I basically pioneered the idea of antiseptic surgery, that's where the correlation is found.
Okay, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Edward Jenner.
Hello, Edward Jenner. How is it going?
Oh, I'm doing good, thank you.
So, what was smallpox and what causes it?
Smallpox is a serious illness, and it was caused by the variola virus. It's considered an epidemic. It affected a lot of people at the time.
So, how was smallpox treated prior to the making of the vaccine?
Okay, so treatments such as herbal remedies, special cloths, and variolation were used to treat smallpox. Variolation is the process of immunizing patients against the disease by infecting them with a mild form of the disease.
How did you discover the smallpox vaccine?
I discovered the smallpox vaccine by testing the impact of cowpox on someone who hadn't, suffered smallpox.
Very interesting. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Keep watching for James Watson and Francis Crick.
Welcome, Francis Crick and James Watson. How are you today?
Fine, thanks for asking.
Are you the only scientist who contributed towards the discovery of DNA?
No, I am not. DNA was first identified in the late 1860s by Swiss chemist Friedrich Mister. Decades following his discovery, other scientists carried out series of research efforts that revealed additional details about DNA molecules, including chemical compounds and model building. Model building was found by Linus Pauling, who I thought would beat me in the discovery of DNA, but it turns out his model was incorrect and mine was correct.
Ah, interesting. So, what is your educational background?
Watson is an American biologist and Crick is an English physicist.
Okay. What are some things you discovered then about DNA that is still consistent today?
Okay, so one thing is DNA. I knew back then, as I know now, that DNA is a double helix. And the helix are anti-parallel, and also within the DNA, the chemical compounds are still connected by hydrogen bonds.
Interesting. So thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me.
My name is Edward Jenner.
And I'm Paul Ehrlich.
I'm Francis Crick and James Watson.
And I'm Joseph Lister.
Thank you for watching the Shrinfrey Science Show.
Join us next week for an episode on medical history.